We've got some fresh new young talent doing some things that I know you haven't heard before.
1, 2, 3, listen.
You got to have the why, and we know our why. So
you don't need to reinvent the wheel. Yeah. Millions and millions of people have done this already. You can get help, you can get a roadmap, you can save a lot of time, money, and frustration. Welcome to the Value Add Podcast with K&K. Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of the Value Add Podcast with K&K. Today we have Frankie V with us. Frankie does the morning show with T from 5 a.m. to 10 a.m. on 95.7.
Yeah, with Tati on Jamn 95.7.
Okay, yeah, we're going to talk about that and some real estate and some other things. And we are joined by someone who's usually behind the scenes, but we brought her in front of the camera today. This is Monsi. She works all our social media and like a plethora of other things. So she knows Frankie, and we're going to have a little fun today.
I like it.
We are. We always do.
We're having fun.
We were just talking about, you've been up since 3:30, so let's see if...
my brain's a little bit shot at this point, so if weird random things come out of my mind, don't judge me.
He starts acting delirious. I don't know why.
It sounds like someone we know already, though, right?
It's like me every day.
I've been up since 4:30, and then a screamy kid from, 2 to 3?
Yeah.
So I'm close to you. I'm kind of brain
All right, we're in the same boat then.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about yourself and how you ended up in radio and how.
Well, I mean, honestly, if like I was telling you guys, if you don't know Frankie V, you're been living under a rock or a freaking island.
Yeah. For the
even your grandma probably has heard him on the radio.
Who haven't heard of Frankie?
For the 0.001% that haven't buckled a damn seatbelt. Yeah.
I grew up in Boston area, a town called Framingham, 50 miles west of the city, and I moved to San Diego in 2006 for the first time. But growing up, I played sports, and I wanted to go the sport commentary route. That was ultimately my dream. And in Framingham, the guy that grew up on my street, actually, a handful of years older than me, is the sports director for the TV stations in Boston. And I watched him, man, if he could do this, why can't I? So I went through high school, and I went to college in New York, Hamilton College, Central New York, played football there. And while I was there, I was doing color commentary for basketball, had a sports show on the radio station. Then I started doing a hip-hop show as well, and I realized that I enjoyed it. I think my first moment of realizing that I could do something was I went to a local bar. And when you're in Central New York where college was, there's literally 2 bars. And I remember after a show, some random dude came up to me and bought me a shot. He's like, I was listening to your show today. It was great. WHCL 88.7. It's this small little college station. And somehow the town outside was listening, and he bought me a drink because he liked my show. So I was like, man, maybe I can make this happen.
Yeah.
Ended up graduating college. I couldn't get a break on air. It was kind of difficult. I sent out tapes to hundreds of people, and nobody replied.
What years was it? What year?
I graduated college in 2001. So 2001, I was sending out my tapes, got nothing. So I ended up working at a sports station in Boston doing advertising sales and the marketing side of radio. And the general sales manager at the station was from my college. So it was kind of like the college hookup. And while I was there, I would sneak into studios and make fake demo tapes and do everything that probably would have gotten me fired if they saw me doing it. But I had that dream of making it on the air. And it was I was doing well on the sales side. And, you're 21 years old doing well at that, and you see where sales can take you, which is great. But I was I didn't get into this right away for the sales money. I wanted to be on the air. A long story short, I got a part-time gig in New Bedford, Mass, market 175. Left sales at that point and gave myself a year to make it full-time radio. If I didn't, I was going to go back to sales. A few months later, I got my full-time gig for the first one in Portland, Maine.
Oh, wow.
Small market. I did afternoons there. While I was there, my hometown of Boston called. I got to do club broadcasts for them. So now I'm in my early 20s doing afternoon drive in Portland, Maine, hosting the club on the radio in Boston. Man, this is starting to work out.
Wow.
Moved to Hartford, Connecticut for a year, and when I was there, the opportunity to come do a night show in San Diego came about. Sent out my tape, didn't think I was going to get the gig, ended up getting an audition. They flew me out here, auditioned for the night show on a station called Channel 933, which is a huge station in the market. Ended up getting the night show there. Did that for 4 years. During those 4 years, I got picked up to be part-time in LA at KIIS-FM. So I started driving to LA on the weekends doing that. Did that for 4 years, ended up moving into a morning show with a girl named Gina. And it was Frankie and Gina on Channel 933.
Remember Frankie and Gina?
So we did that show for about 5 or 6 years. And my goal was always to get back to Boston. I had that weird feeling in me that I have to truly prove that I'm doing well. My friends would see me man, you're kicking ass and you're amazing.
Okay.
But I was I want to do this in my hometown and prove to myself. And it was crazy because I had been trying, and there's no opportunities really were coming about. So I kind of threw in the towel. I'm good. San Diego and LA is great. Then my dad got sick and ended up passing away. And days later, I got a call from my hometown station offering me the morning show on the station I grew up listening to. I'm like, holy shit, this is crazy.
Shit.
So I dropped everything here. I had the a number 1 rated morning show in San Diego doing well, and I just left it all. Went back to Boston for a year, and while I was in Boston, things changed and radio changes, and they decided to go with a syndicated show, remove the local show, and the company iHeart offered me the opportunity to move back to San Diego. They launched a station called Jamn 95.7. And now I'm the assistant program director, music director, and morning host. I was afternoon first, transitioned to mornings with Tati 2016, and kind of brought me back here during that. And during those journeys I've gotten to be on, and I still am on nationally in Austin, Texas, Boston, Portland, LA, and then on a nationally syndicated show as well. Wow. So it's kind of cool to get to do it all from the studio. So a kid that had the dream of becoming a sports broadcaster is more so in the hip-hop top 40 realm of national radio, which is cool.
That's awesome. Wow.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
There's just like so much moving going on.
It is, in the business you do, and I've been fortunate because my career for the most part has been 12 years in San Diego, which has been great, 2006.
It's a long run.
It is, and I've been fortunate for that. I probably would have, had I not gotten that job in Boston, it would have been a straight through 12, 13-year run here, which in media business isn't really heard of. So I've been fortunate for this market and for the company I work for giving me that opportunity. So yeah, there's a lot of moving around that goes on. Fortunately for me, it's been a pretty cool movement. It was, Maine, which is near Boston, Connecticut not far, then out here for a good run. So I've been fortunate with the moves.
When you went to back to Boston, what year was that?
2015 to 16.
Okay. So you're 6. So I just was like with your uncle, because I was telling your uncle's Rick Lawrence.
Yeah.
I met Crystal.
Rick Lawrence, the traffic guy.
Yes, I was just saying.
Yeah.
Yep.
When I met Crystal's 2008 and 2009, so like right in the recession, and he was employed, and then boom, all of a sudden, I don't know what happened. You can probably tell us, but like I think it was advertising got cut, and everything started consolidating, and he was like out, and it was just boom, like overnight. Crazy.
Yeah, it was 2008, but I mean, we're talking about this off the mic a little bit. Things have changed in general in the world, and when the recession hit in 2008, businesses no longer had as much of a budget, so companies are laying people off as well. And the number one thing they often say with companies that they remove when hard times hit is your marketing budget.
Yeah.
Your marketing advertising budget, because you'd rather not lose employees if you could.
Nobody's doing commercials anymore.
Right. So then they're cutting back on commercials, and instead of having a budget of say $200,000 to spend, now it's down to like $50,000, and they're being real tight on where they're going to put it. So the advertising starts to take a hit on TV, print media, radio, billboards, like everything, adjusts. With that happens less budget for personnel, which means the layoffs happened in 2008 across the board in America, I believe, but it hit pretty hard in media as well because the advertising went away. It has gone back up, which is great. Our country has gotten back into a better, there's still the ups and downs, but it's in a better spot. But when that did happen, I was telling you, you can either adjust with the times and go with the flow and the changes that are happening and realize that, it's going to be a big thing, big push to social media and a big push to web hits and different ways to bring revenue in versus just a 4-hour radio show. And, you might be asked to do multiple markets. Are you able to adjust who you are in one market and bring your brand out further? And a lot of people weren't able to. I told myself either I'm going to adjust with the times and navigate through this and get through it, or I'm going to be one of the ones that is asked to no longer be a part of the business. And I worked away and I learned a lot of different things, and I figured out ways of, knock on wood, battling my way through those. And now, the platform is back to being good. People are advertising again. Marketing money has gone up in the businesses, and it was definitely a bumpy road. I'd say 2008 to 2010 for sure. Yeah,
but now it's more like you said. I mean, you've got shows where people are listening to you all over the country versus like just San Diego now, where I feel like that's kind of what it was pre-2008, right?
It was, it's coming around. But the other thing I'll say, it's like 360 degrees. It's the same when it comes to real estate. Back in the day, I feel like it was more cut and dry, but now you see people with the videos of the properties, and they have, the website pushes and the social media. It's no different on the radio. It's 360, right? Back years ago, you were behind a microphone. Nobody knew how you looked at. If you
we were talking about that.
People didn't want to know. You didn't want to be seen. It's almost like such a it's just his voice. But now, we do a lot of appearances on the street and shake hands and act like politicians, trying to win over listeners that way. Social media is such a big thing for multiple pushes of your product. And then furthermore, the website and the streaming, you now have to have a product that people want to pick up in those ways. So it's a full circle of 360 now versus the 4 in the door. But I feel like that's real estate, that's radio, that's
everything.
That's everything.
I mean, that's groceries. Yeah. I mean, you see it on TV now, and you see them. It's just like everybody's pushing everything in a different way.
Well, and it's kind of like, why did people have to do radio in their own city or town anyways? Like, what does it matter? So it's
for sure. And if it's a good product, it can be pushed otherwise, and
it can be scaled easy.
It can for sure.
Yeah.
But the thing that's cool is, if you work hard and you have the opportunities, you can develop. You were saying it's a brand versus just working for a radio station. You have your own brand that you're building and utilizing the radio stations to help, work together versus just one entity.
Yeah, it's funny. I was listening to a podcast this morning with Robert Kiyosaki. I don't know if you knew his.
No.
Rich Dad, Poor Dad. You ever heard that book?
I have. I haven't read it, but I've heard it, yes.
Yeah.
Most people don't know his name, but they know that book.
Yeah, that's funny.
So he was interviewing Steve Chase, I believe Steve Chase, who started AOL. So he was saying, Steve Chase is saying, this is pretty crazy. In 1985, he started AOL. There was 3% of the population was online, and they spent an average of an hour a week.
Yeah.
So he said that was the first wave, and what the book was called is the third wave. So it's the first wave of just the internet started.
Yeah.
The second wave is obviously building technology to start changing the internet, right? Like we have like social and all this. So what like you just said is this. He said the third wave is you take a teacher, take a doctor, take a real estate person, take a marketing person, take a videographer person, take somebody on the radio, and you don't have to be a teacher in school now because of you have technology, you have a camera, you have YouTube, you have social media. You can build your own platform, your own thing, and teach something and build it on TV and like sales funnel and do it that way. So he was going through. That's the third wave that's coming in our country now.
It was funny you said when I was in college. I still remember, and it was in a class, of course, in Italian. I took it for about a week, and I was like, man, this is way too confusing for me. And I should have learned it because I have a Italian background. And I still couldn't get it. But it was crazy because it was a teacher. I went to Hamilton College, and I think she was an Ivy League teacher at one of the Ivy Leagues. But she came up on the screen and like literally was live in her classroom in, say, I don't know, Sacramento or wherever. And it's in New York, and I'm looking up at her, and she's teaching class this way. So we literally walk into class. She does the role there, and I was like, I think it was the first time that I realized technology is changing. This is back, 18 years ago or whatever. But you looked at it, and like, this teacher really is not even here, but she's still going to grade my papers. I still got to send her all this stuff, and it started to realize that even back then, times were changing, and you don't have to be in front of somebody to teach them, to talk to them on the radio, to sell them a car, sell them a house. You can do this all through this technology that was starting to boom. And that goes back to AOL. I remember in college, that was like just starting, and people are just learning about was it AOL Instant Messenger, and you start talking to people on that.
You had the dial-up, the little
dial-up
like
on it.
noise.
Then you had your but I remember I was like, man, in college, we didn't have cell phones at the time, or very few did, so you're using dial cards, and you had to pay for those cards, $25 for 20 minutes of talk time. Then you realize at AOL I could contact my mom on this one. I'm gonna call it, everything's good, got an A+ today,
Yeah.
And you started realizing it was changing, but that was the start of AOL, I feel like, and more people were diving online then saying, crap, I can save a whole lot of money not having to call somebody. I can just message them, which is kind of cool. But it's weird to think back there to where it was then. Like you're saying with AOL, it's just grown to such a massive media force now. I mean, media in general.
It's insane. Like, when I went to see Gary Vee in New York.
Which I'm jealous about. That dude is like,
I
watch his videos every morning. It's such a motivating.
He's crazy. So he was just saying, that's what he tells people. If you have a job, you can come home, touch your kids, put them down, so he says, and then start a side hustle. And that's what people are starting to realize. It's like, you're a teacher, you're this, you're that, but you can start the side hustle. Just a little bit of time, and start your building, and you're building your brand, your side hustle, so you can quit and go there. And I don't think people really were understanding the concept, but now I think people that are doing it, and you're seeing the success and like the whole sales funnel, like that guy we're doing. This is the third wave. This is what's coming. It's like, so I think you're going to see. I mean, what do we have? 25 million entrepreneurs. They say by 2030 we're going to have 43 million entrepreneurs in the country, and that's going to be a big employer. So that's like you said, you can even do what you do, and even though you wake up at 3:30 and go home and do another side hustle too, and you probably have side hustles.
And I do that, and it's funny you said, because you start to think about what can you do? How can you make your money work for you versus against you? And as times change, as the depression hit and everything happens, you step back and say, there's probably more entrepreneurs now because there's less big companies hiring as many people, right? They're consolidating here. So like, if I want to make good money, I have to figure this out. What am I good at? And it almost forces you to step back and say, man, I'm really good at selling. What can I sell? I should get into real estate and build my own. You know what it is, but you start digging deeper into you. Beforehand, I feel like jobs had so many positions, and companies have consolidated their own business, so there's less of those random jobs out of college. Like, you're getting out of college now and you don't get a job. Like, people are like, shit, what do? I just spent all this money on college.
$250,000.
Yeah, and I can't get a job, so you have to step back and say, well, I have student loans kicking in September, and I have this.
Or you're making like 30, 35 grand.
Right,
like,
and after taxes, you can barely get by. So I think that's where the entrepreneurials are coming in. They step back and say to them, like, what am I good at? What skills do I have? And you're like Gary Vee says, you go home and you sit down for a second and start thinking about how you can use who you are and branch yourself out to make money
Exactly
and make
what
a
happened
career.
with me. That's how I got into the whole social media stuff for you guys. You know, it's just like I got a degree in kinesiology and I ended up doing social media in the end. Like I became a little entrepreneur myself.
No, for sure. I think that's where I just don't think people realize, like, if you're not going to go to college, it's like, why don't you go to your mom and dad and say, hey, give me the $100,000, pay me over 4 years, I'll go work for Gary Vee for free, and I'll learn more shit than I will in college. And that's the thing, is like, college is, I get it, doctor, attorney, lawyer, whatever, all that stuff, I get it. But it's not, I mean, if you're in radio, what are you going to go to college for? I mean, do you really think you're going to, you better be an intern with you for 4 years. And
you learn so much more on hands-on.
Exactly.
I'm glad I went and got my degree. I'll tell you what it did give me was confidence, right? So you get out and like, all right, if radio doesn't work out, I have a great 4-year degree that I'm able to use to
like you don't have to stay in that business, just having a degree,
having that confidence of it. But I mean,
feel like it'd be like that this day and age, you'd still have the confidence? Do you feel like
it's tough to say. I mean, you almost like, it's like that perfect world. They say, you know, you go to high school, you get good grades, and you go off to college, you get your diploma. I mean, it's almost instilled in your heads by your parents, you know, like that's the way it is. What I always tell people in radio, like my brother does radio as well in Boston, and he started with my help, and his skill set was able to get on the air a lot younger than I was because he had all that path for him. And he's like, man, I should just drop out of college. You know, he's like a freshman or something. Like, I already got offers for full-time jobs coming. I'm like, slow down for a second. Get that degree first. Do it together. And so he would, you know, he would do it, and he would still do that. So I would still always say, if you are able to get a college degree, get it. But I always tell people I work with, the best experience I got was actually doing it. Was either being in the studios, you know, just finding time. I didn't intern because I had graduated college and my school didn't offer radio internships. So, but I did sales. But what I would do at night was I'd go into the studio and I'd sit there and learn. You know, I remember I became friends with one of the morning show hosts, and I would sleep on the couch in studio, and I literally just lay there and listen and try to pick up on it. And I learned so much more doing that with watching and feeling than I did from a college degree.
Well, that's the other thing too, is the relationships too are like more important than, you know, like your education.
Is the biggest thing you can do.
Yeah, exactly.
I said to everybody too, and that's a cool thing in our industry. I always say with radio is, if I was to ever leave radio, what would I do? And you step back and say, well, look at my network of friends and people that are doing stuff that you made an impression on. Like I'd sit down and talk with them and say, what do you think I could be good at, maybe in real estate or in restaurant business or in
you have so many dynamic friends probably from just being on the radio,
from it,
but the people you get to meet.
Yes, totally. But those relationships, you know, help you grow in radio, but it also helps you if you decide to, or you know,
helps
whatever
you with other
your career is.
opportunities.
Right. You know, and I agree that relationships are probably more powerful. I don't want to say this, but say it than a college degree sometimes because I feel like you should get it.
Feels weird to say it, but it's like more and more true, I think, in our day and age too, just because most people, like there's so many people who are now like, I dropped out of college, I never finished college, and they're doing these like great things.
I read some articles, something like 75% of billionaires like never made it through college or something ridiculous like that, but you step back and say you're right because they figured out what their passion was.
Yeah,
they're like,
and they went for
some of them are in college. They're like, I'm out of here.
I mean, look at Mark Zuckerberg. I mean,
he was in there.
He was at Harvard and he left. But you know, when the Facebook at the time started to take off, he's like, I don't need to sit at, you know, at Harvard and spend another $100,000 next year to be here. I can move up to San Francisco and build my business.
Yeah.
So I think
we're $70 billion, so it was a good decision.
Right, exactly. But it's not like he was dumb or couldn't get through college. But it's like he had that entrepreneurial mind. Like I figured it out.
Exactly.
College helped me meet some people, get those connections. But
that's a good point. Yeah.
But it got there. But it's interesting to see, you know, that with a degree, what does it do for you? What makes you pop it? I think a lot of entrepreneurs are coming out of college. Those that have gone, and they're just like, shit. There's no jobs. There's no money in the jobs I want to do. What do I do? And you take the Gary Vee thing, you sit home and you figure out what you want to become.
Well, this side of the table never finished college, so.
And you guys are successful. That's the thing. But you found out what you liked, you know. And I have other friends that went through college and still don't know what they want to do. I have friends that didn't go to college and figured it out faster than the rest, right?
I think everybody's path is different too, because I think to some people it's a good experience to go to college when you're not sure exactly what you want to do and you're kind of trying things.
Or you're immature too. I'll tell you, in college, you know, it's almost like your safety ground for 4 years.
Yeah.
Like if you leave high school and you don't go to college and you're so immature at life, like you just run out and like, oh, look at me.
You're a failure if you're not going to college, right?
Or you think in your mind, man, I'm making $30,000 is a lot of money. I'm doing so well right now, and I'm 20 years old, and you think that. But you're so mature for that. So sometimes those 4 years cause you to mature a little bit.
Yeah.
Like I learned a lot in college as a person from 17 to 21 or whatever it was, 18 to 22. You know, you're there and you're kind of learning who you are as a person.
And relationships too. Again, it's like you never know. With
and that's how I got my first job. Was graduate of my college, was a general sales manager at a radio station. And
there you go.
Had I not gone to that college and not met him, I mean, he's now the head of the Chargers in LA, which is just a small world, but it's a CRO, SVP of the Chargers. So it's funny how he was there, and you know those connections, those relationships. I still talk to him, all the time. And it's funny, but I met him through college, and I'm like, did I need college? And like, I do step back and say, well, if I didn't go to Hamilton College and do well there, I wouldn't have never had Jim Rushton give me this chance to go do this. So it's interesting to kind of see.
So you're a morning show or night show? What do you prefer?
I love mornings. You get to talk more and be more of a personality. You get to connect more. We're talking about this with the amount of traffic that cities have now. You're sitting in your car.
People are sitting around. Like,
they're sitting in their cars, and it's so cool to know that, like, and it's another unfortunate thing to say, but I'd say 95% of people don't enjoy going to work. There's like that 5% that love it. The other 95 are like, you got to do it to pay your bills. And you got to make them laugh and smile. Right. So it's kind of a cool thing to know that somebody's getting in their car, driving, sitting in traffic, which alone is going to be annoying.
They're like, entertain me, Frankie.
Right. Yeah. And it's like, man, my life. But if my favorite things are when people tweet me or hit me on Instagram or call, it's like, man, I was having such a shitty day, and you put a smile on my face and made it better. So I enjoyed that connection in Morning Drive.
I love how you actually post that on social media too. Like when
people
someone
I'll give them love if somebody hits me up.
You're so personable about it.
And I like that too, and I want people to know within radio. That's another thing that changed. Back in the day, it was like such a hidden thing. Like, I wonder what they look like and what they're like, really. I want you to know my life. I was reading this article the other day, and they're saying back in the day, radio was such a hidden thing where you never talked about your personal life. It was like only about the music or like the rock stars. But now, because of the way things are changing, people want that personal connection. So I'll tell you my life. I'll tell you who I'm dating and who I broke up with and what's going on in my life.
You guys are totally. Even with like Gina, I remember. I think it was you. You'd always give her shit about the boy she's dating.
Exactly. But you know what? That's real life.
I loved War of the Roses on 19.5. I'd wait for the hour. I'd get on and be like, oh, look at this guy.
Like in the parking lot. Like, no, we got 5 more minutes.
And and that's our goal, right? I do a prank call every morning called the Jamboozle prank, and it's funny. I love when people hit me up on that. Like, dude,
what is that exactly? What is that?
So it's a prank phone call where somebody will email me and we'll get somebody else on the phone and we'll prank phone call them. It's so immature, but it's so much fun to do.
People don't even know. Like,
and I cover up a little bit in the voice wise, and it's just so fun. But it's so like brings me back to being a teenage punk and just being like, these pranks. But people love it. But I'll get people laughing in their car and they'll videotape themselves laughing and they tag me in it, and I'll repost it. And it's like, look, I'm a human being too, and thank you for listening in. And it's cool. Or people get shocked if I do respond to like a message. Like, I can't believe you responded. I'm like, well, I can't believe you're listening to me. Yeah. So it's almost like that two-way street. Like, I don't have that ego. I'm like, I'm so, oh my gosh, you were listening. Or if I'm go out and do something, come up and like, hey, can I get a picture? I'm like, holy shit, you listen to me every morning? Hell yeah. Can I get a picture with you too for mine so I can show people you listen?
Yeah.
It's that cool connection of radio now. So I love Morning Drive for that personal.
That's cool.
My life.
I like that attitude.
And it's actually, it's funny when people are like, man, they'll ask me questions about my life. I'm like, I've never met you before, but that's kind of weird how you know what I just went through. Yeah. But it's also, I step back and it's so humbling to be like, they actually care. They actually listen in. They listen to my life, listen to the story. Then they see me or at a bar or a club or at the grocery store, and they'll ask me about something they heard.
Well, now you're not hiding behind the mic,
No, and that's where social media is so crazy now too, is where people follow you on Instagram and they see what's going on. And I always say, talk about the 360 radio. We're on the air for 4 hours, but I want you to know my life all day long. So Instagram stories, I'm posting stuff going on. I'll post pictures outside of my 4 hours because I want you to be intrigued with what's going on in my life.
Stay connected. Yeah.
And people often say too, like, man, I can't believe you posted that. I can't wait for Tati to bust on you for posting that shirtless picture at the gym. But I'll post it for a reason on my Instagram. I get that reaction. Then you go back, thirst trapping. We're talking about that, but I'll go back and forth. Oh, I know she's going to mess with me. I can't wait tomorrow at 7 a.m. I'm definitely going to. So it's almost like that way of driving that audience from your social media.
Yeah.
You're seeing my whole life and what I'm doing. Then, my co-host.
And they're listening in just to hear her give you shit.
Yeah. 100%. But then they'll say, man, it reminds me like me and my girlfriend. She's always giving me shit. Or, so you remind me just like my boyfriend. So dumb when it comes to doing dishes. But that's the goal, right? I just want to be everybody's.
But it kind of like brings a lightheartedness too. Like maybe that person would be like upset about something like that, and then you bring that lighthearted, like funny kind of silliness, which is we all need to have, right? Like it doesn't need to be so serious.
No, but it's funny to relate. So like today it's a bit we call X Chronicles, where we'll get X on the phone or couples and kind of help them through stuff.
Oh, I've seen this.
And we have like situations, and today 2 people called in like, I've been in that situation before. Let me, I got to tell you how they got to handle this. And there's twofold in that. One was it's so cool that people are hearing what's going on and they're able to relate and like, this is helping me because I just went through this. We also know there's probably hundreds of others that are going through it that have no platform or no way to tell anybody because they're too embarrassed to say, I'm arguing with my husband about this or my ex did that. But then they hear 2 more people say it. I think it's one of those things where they step back and say, I'm not the only one going through this right now. This is kind of cool. I'm hearing this on the radio of other people living what's going on in my life. So it's almost like that cool outlet.
And people want to naturally help too, so
they
it's cool.
love to help. We always say that it's like we give a reason for listeners to call in to give advice. People love to give advice. Everybody's got that like, mom and dad feel like I can tell you what to do and how you should have done it. But there's other people that are scared to call in or don't want to call in.
And they're listening though.
They're listening for that advice. So it's kind of cool when, you talk to them, man, listen all the time. I've never called in, but when somebody said this, it really helped me. It's like, that's so cool because you build a little community.
Yeah, for sure.
Through these microphones that go through like a car speakers. It's pretty dope.
Have you always been open, or like as older you gotten, the more comfortable?
It took a while, yeah, because you always want to have this, like, I'm the single guy and I'm the this and that, and that's what you think, but it's like, you know what, you're not though. It's like when you start dating somebody, they'd rather hear about you dating versus being, I'm not the guy at the club and I'm always trying to pick up chicks. It's like, it's cool for like a minute, but after a while, it's like, is that real? Are you really like that? So it took me a while to like take that guard down and be like, all right, I went on a date and the date sucked, and here's what happened.
Sorry, but it did.
But it did, right? Because you know how many guys have gone out there excited to go on a date and it's failed, or if I messed something up, it's funny. I'd gone through a bad relationship, and I remember the next girl I dated. First thing I said to her was like, "What type of crazy are you?" Like I literally said it at the dinner. She's like, "What do you mean? What type of crazy am I?" I'm like, "That came out wrong." But the next day.
But really, what type of crazy are you?
But on the air, I talked about that, and I had so many people hit me up. I was like, "Dude, that was so funny," because I went on a first date, and I'm looking at this girl, wondering like, "Man, there's got to be something crazy." And they're all girl, your girl be like, "Dude,
we all are, right?"
Right, and then girls
like Nick would say, "I'm batshit crazy,"
You say, right,
no, you're the devil's mistress.
Oh, that's right.
Yes. Or the flip side with like a girl, like you're talking about. You complain because you split a tab on a dinner date or whatever. Like, dude, thank you for saying that, because the guy I went on a date with, he was. So it's almost like,
because that's weird when that happens.
Right.
Yes.
Totally.
Let's just put it out there.
Really?
Exactly, but
not okay.
Not okay.
Not
but,
okay.
But I'll tell you. But it's funny to tell my life and have you say that in your car.
Yeah.
You really that is not okay. I cannot. And then you go on a date like, holy shit, other guys do this. So you build that. My honesty of my real life makes you like, oh yeah, I just actually do the same stuff that you do. So it took me a while, but the more that I did. And I think I got the most comfortable was when my dad got sick back in 2000. He was sick for a while, but he got real sick in 2015. He ended up passing away in 2016, and that's when I did move back to Boston. But I remember I was actually doing this show in San Diego from Boston studios because I didn't really move back home, but I was staying back in Boston during a lot of his hospital stay. And I would literally go to the hospital, and I'd sleep there or whatever. Then I'd go and do the morning show. And then I'd have to go back over. And it was like, I was honest. Like, I wasn't lying to people like, hey, I'm in San Diego and it's sunny. I'm like, it's snowing outside right now. I'm in Boston. My dad's in the hospital, but I'm going to still do this show. And I had so many people connect off of that.
Yeah.
And, and I remember when I got a text from my brother that dad might not make it. And, I was on the air when I got that text. And I just broke down crying on the air. And it's like this tough guy who, acts like so much on the radio. I remember at the time I said to my co-host, I'm like, I'm done. It was like 8 o'clock. So I just have to leave. And it's those moments of being real versus faking it. Like everything's great that I feel like audience were like, all right, Frankie's a real person. And he too has issues that happen, and it's not always happy and smiling on the radio. But it took me those moments of real life shit to happen to be able to say, people want to hear this stuff. And
don't you feel better about it when you're like that? Don't you?
I do.
Like you don't like when you're being that way, because I'm very much like that.
Yeah.
I don't give a fuck. It's just I'll just say. But when you're like that and you're out there and you're sharing and you're out there with your honesty, even on Instagram, I just say these are my insecurities. This is it, because I don't give a shit. But people I know, I get texts like, damn, that made me think. And last week we were talking about relationship stuff, and people were like, man, because we don't care, because I know it can help somebody, but. For me, I'm like, I feel so much better that I can share, because it's like there's no traps, there's no nothing. No. It's out there.
It's amazing. I remember when I first moved back to San Diego, so I left for a year, I came back, and I was doing an event with SDCCU, and it was a shred event where people were shredding papers. And anyways, a car pulls up, and the guy just says, thank you. I go, oh, for being here, my pleasure. He goes, no. He goes, I lost I think it was mom or dad, a few weeks ago, and I remember hearing you on the radio. I'm like, if Frankie could get through this and tell us on the radio and make it happen, he's like, I can get through this too. He goes, it helped me, and it kind of that's when it kind of all came full circle, right? Some guy I'd never seen, and like telling a macho guy too. I was like, thank you. And I was like, holy shit, that's so cool. That I'm sorry that the passing. I'm so cool that I was able to. My story helped you. Yeah. But it has helped, and when you post it on social media, if you have 2 people looking at it or 1 million people looking at it, you have a chance to affect them in a positive or negative way, which is the other thing too. Like you have to be smart at stuff you post, because you don't want to go the bully route and say mean stuff. You want to.
Yeah, you got to be careful.
You got to be careful. But when you use it for your flaws versus pointing out other people's flaws, it's a great.
Well, that's like what Gary Vee says, though. Like your true colors are always going to show on social media. So if you are a shitty person, like everybody's going to see, And
that's very true. And there's that too.
That's just like with money, as they say. if you're an asshole, you're just gonna be a rich asshole.
I heard that quote the other day.
If you're nice, you're gonna be a nice rich guy. That's what it is, like literally.
For sure. If you were an asshole before you're rich and you became one when you had the money, you always were. You just covered it up at the time to try to get that money. We're talking about that, but it's so true. But it's in general. But I think that's what I like about my platform is when you are being real. There's no asshole hiding. Like if I'll say some stuff on the radio sometimes, and I'll shut up the mic. I'm like, holy shit, I really feel like I was talking to my boy.
Like, a few people might not like that.
I say that. And I've had some complaints on stuff, but you'd rather get that and know that you were standing for who you are. I'm not saying go so far one way, but
also everybody's not going to like you, and that's okay.
It is okay. And sometimes we always say like the haters are the ones that drive your ratings or drive anything, because if they're not out there hating on you and telling 12 people they hate on you,
hey, they're still talking about you.
That's exactly it. If they're talking about you,
you affected them enough to call in.
And you know it's funny. I think someone was like, man, I hate listening to you guys all the time. I'm like, well, you just contradicted yourself. Like, I hate listening to you guys all the time. It's like, but you keep on, you just tweeted me to tell me that you hate listening to me all the time.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for that. So
he loves to hate you.
Thank you for that. I appreciate that.
I'm glad you're listening to it.
Thank you for listening. And the best is when I do retweet some of those people, the haters, they're like, oh, wow. Oh, I mean, I didn't mean it that way. I was just trying to say,
But honestly, some of those people are kind of funny because I think some people, like, it's happened a couple times where I've seen on other people's social media where they'll kind of call them out for it, but in a nice way. And then they're like,
people.
No, they're like, wow, but they're shocked that you respond. And then they're like, sorry, I was just kind of having a shitty day. Like, I just, somebody made me mad, or like I got in a fight with my girlfriend.
That is all what Crystal reminds me. Somebody always says that, if you're driving down the road and some guy cuts you off and is like, fuck you, motherfucker, or whatever, it's like, you don't know if
what
his mom just died or this, and that's why, like, even with people, and that's why you're like, look, if the guy is not pulling out a gun, oozing down everybody, like, even that guy, they're miserable at a moment or something, and you have to have humor with
not to sidetrack that, but another story ties into my dad. I remember when I was back in Boston for Christmas, and I was living out here, living the life. I'm like, oh shit, it's Christmas time. Like 4 days, I'm going home. I have no present. So I went home and I went to, I think it was like a Kohl's, and I went to get my dad a watch, like a big face watch, so he could have it. And I was with my mom, and I remember the lady that was behind the counter. I'm like, can I try this one? She's like, no, I'm like, the kind of. After she's like, do you not know what you want to get? Like, was kind of snapping at me. I'm like, this, it's Christmas time. What's wrong with you? I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, I'm sorry. I'm like, I'm trying to buy an expensive watch here for my dad. And she's looking at me, all right. And this one, she goes, you know what? When you know which one you want, real snappy. Anyways, tell her my name, and she's, with my credit card, she goes, it's your dad, and she says my dad's name. I go, yeah. She just started crying. She goes, this is my second job that I need to do to pay bills. I'm actually one of his nurses as well at a rehab center. Oh, wow. And she goes, I hate Christmas because both my husband and my son passed away at Christmas time. Jesus. So, of course, I'm a son buying something for my dad. So, it's, she's mad, not mad, but the emotions come out that her son and her husband both passed away at Christmas time. Yeah. And it all came, and she just broke down and she apologized for the way she was. And I remember leaving. I'm like, me thinking, like, this lady's such a B. Like, what is she doing? And I step back and say, well, that's exactly what it was. Ask my dad. And she's like, oh, she's the sweetest person because she likes helping that. But that triggered her that a son was buying a dad something and she can't have that moment.
She didn't get that moment around Christmas.
Right. So going back to like, what caused somebody to have a bad day or to give you the finger, I was like, that wasn't my fault that you had a bad day. I apologize. Yeah. So somebody gives me the finger, I just wave and say thank you. Did I make your day feel better?
I try to tell Kenny to do that now too, because sometimes he's like, "What?" Like he gets all crazy.
Get like that. But if you step back and it's like,
Kenny, maybe they're having a bad day. Like,
and if that made them. That was the best part of the day, was giving me the finger. Good for them.
Because when you piss somebody off. So if I didn't do it, then I'm like, sorry. Like they're probably having a bad day. I mean, I don't know.
That was gonna be one of my questions for you. I mean, you kind of answer is like, how do you deal with haters?
I love them though. Like it's like you don't love haters, but you love them. I remember when I was on in Boston, there's this one listener that would go in on me because I had replaced a legendary person there, and I can't believe they brought you in. And this California guy, and I'm like, first of all, I'm a Boston dude that's living in California. It's a balance of life. And would go in on me. To this day, one of the biggest listeners I have in San Diego is that person from their desk in Boston.
They
would go in on me, and I'd retweet them.
So sometimes they're the most loyal people.
Oh, yeah, they are. So they're so angry that their person they listened to left. Yeah. And then I won them over, but they would send me the hate tweets. You're not such and such, and I can't believe it. So I'd retweet them. Well, thank you for correcting me. Thank you for that. I apologize. Hopefully tomorrow, and I wouldn't say antagonize them, but I'd let them know, like, hey, I'm watching what you're sending. I end up leaving there. Was one of the number one advocates of why did I leave. And then here, I get tweets every morning, calls my show from Boston, 3-hour difference.
Oh my gosh.
Same person, but what did I do? Is like, when you're getting the hate, you can either ignore it and they'll keep coming at you, or acknowledge them. A lot of people are using social media because
you're hiding.
They're hiding, and they need a friend. They need somebody to talk to, and they go on their social media. So you're tweeting me, telling me how bad I did. Well, you're listening. So thank you for listening. I'm going to make sure I don't make that mistake again. You know, and then they're like, oh.
Do you think people are like that, like haters and behind, just because they're just not happy in their life? I mean, because you've been on the radio a while, you get listeners, you call in, and I mean, some people say good shit or bad shit or whatever. I mean, you're doing personalities, you're dealing with people stuck in traffic, or they're going to work, like you said, 95% of them hate them, or this or that. Do you think it's just like why people won't be open? They just can't. They're just too insecure. They just got a problem.
I think so, but it's a way to vent your thoughts and your feelings. Some people aren't comfortable to post on social media their flaws or to talk on a microphone and say mine. Their job is whatever they do for a career. They can pull up their phone. They can just tweet. A lot of times the haters don't even have a picture up. If you notice that, it's like they have a picture of their dog up. So like they're hiding themselves, but they have personal anger. Some of them have personal thoughts that they don't know how to express them. They use social media to express them. The good or the bad, right? Sometimes I love them.
You never know. Like, they could be like a lonely person.
They could be. But I love that they use, sometimes I love that they use social media to get it out. Get it off your chest. Let me know what you're hearing and you don't like and you do like.
It is an outlet for people, I think, that don't feel comfortable to do things like that in person.
True, but I like the haters. They teach me stuff too. Maybe I did mess up. Maybe
for sure.
If you don't tell me that I messed up, how do I know that I messed up? And if you have the balls to tell me, good for you.
Yeah.
I've invited some to the studio sometimes. Like, you know what? Come on in the studio. Let's shake hands and break bread real quick and show you that I'm a human being. You are too.
That's
and
awesome.
some of my favorite, followers have become those ones that.
I like the attitude.
Yeah.
It's good.
But you have to spin it on that to succeed, or you can let it eat you alive, which some people do, and then they don't become themselves. I'd rather be myself and tell you how I feel when you tell me negative stuff, just like I do with the positive.
Yeah.
Same.
But it is a sign of success, I think, because like I said, not everybody's going to love you, and that's okay. And that's kind of a sign that you're being true to yourself too.
True.
Because if you're trying to please everybody and everybody just is like, and plus I always say this too to Kenny, like, you never want to be that person like, oh, he's nice. Like, that's not really a compliment. Like,
what makes him so nice? Well, I don't know. He's cool.
He's nice.
Yeah.
Give me something. Give me
Like
some
Grant
substance.
Cardone says.
What you want is like he's
real. He was on
real.
social media and he was
Yeah.
real about the fact that X, Y, Z or on the radio
just
saying
real.
that.
Yeah. What's your favorite part? Like, do you have a favorite, like, I mean, we say guests here. You're probably like one of your favorite guests ever on, but also like, do you have something on your show that you just like look forward to every week that's like, funny or whatever that you just love? Like,
I like doing prank calls. Those are always fun. Okay. That's just a persona I'm able to
I did those in high school.
Yeah, exactly. It brings my immature me out. I was talking about somebody the other day. I think you become unhappy in life when you forget what made you happy as a kid, right? If you think about it, like as a kid, you see kids running around and eating food and just like nothing. There's no worries. They're living life. As we get older, life comes at you. Bills, relationships, all this. So I think that brings me back to like the high school days of when like you're kind of carefree. You're playing football and having fun and friends. It's like, we're making prank phone calls and it's hysterical. So I love getting to do that in my older years. So I look forward to that. And I do look forward to artist interviews. I think it's always cool. It's funny. I like people succeeding. So I like seeing like Lady Gaga came in before she was really anybody. She had just launched Just Dance. And it's like, I did an interview in a room about this size with some listeners and now she's Lady Gaga. Katy Perry was in it. Justin Bieber was 14 years old, and I did a water chugging contest with him.
Oh my gosh! That's
and
so
at the
funny.
time, you could tell he was going to become something because all these little teeny boppers were like, begging to try to meet him. And my boss and I were like, what is up with this kid? Who knows? Let's have him in anyways. And then you see where he went to, or you meet artists that are successful. I remember Akon. It was when I was doing a night show. Came in and he was at the top of his game at the point. I'm like, man, this guy's going to be such a D-bag, I can already tell. Was the nicest guy I've met.
Right.
He's like,
he is the nice guy.
it was super cool, but you step back in those moments too, and I was kind of like, this is cool because I get to meet them on like face value.
Yeah.
And I love seeing the artists. We had an artist coming this morning. He's trained by Macklemore, and he was telling me it's his kid, Thompson, and he was telling me that he got his break because Macklemore had a school and like a class, like a summer class, and he would go to Macklemore's class and McElroy ended up liking him. He came, but I mean, the kid walks in with this big smile, and I know he's going to be huge. And it's so cool to see like this kid, literally a 21-year-old kid, like tell me how he got here and how he made it to this point, and how I have songs with millions of views on YouTube, but not many people know him yet. But in 5 years from now, and I always say to these artists, I go, when you're back in my studio in 5 years, be as cool as you are right now.
Yeah.
In 5 years, because I want
It's gonna
you.
matter. Yeah.
So I love seeing like artists. So when it comes to my favorite part of the show, I mean, obviously I love doing the prank calls, but when it comes to the bigger picture, I love entertaining people, but I love watching artists, new artists, develop and become like, oh man, I knew him before he was anybody, and now he's performing at the Grammys. Like, that's kind of cool.
Crazy.
Yeah.
And the real artists, are the ones that remember you and will stay in contact with you through that grind. Mike Posner was a really cool one. He had a handful of songs, Cooler Than Me, Pill and Ibiza, and I was actually, my mom had never been backstage at a concert, and she's shy and timid, and my brother and I both work at the same station in Boston. I do it from San Diego. He does a night show there, and we're at this event together, and my mom was backstage for the first time, and Mike Posner walked by, said hi to me, gave my mom a big hug, and goes, Frankie's been riding with me since day one. He's a really cool guy, and walks in, and my mom was like, who's that? I go, he has this song. I go, I know those songs. That was it, like, got all excited. And she's like, that's really cool that he knew who you were. I'm like, well, you know, before he was really anybody 10 years ago when he popped by the studios, you know, I shook his hand. He gave me a cell phone number. I was like, hey, man, when you're in LA, let's grab lunch sometime. You build this connection. And it was cool that at the time he had probably like a number one song, top 5 song. And my mom was in shock. So I think those relationships are so cool to build with those artists. And
For sure.
years later, I have that connection. So I love that part of my job.
It's kind of cool to see, like, you get to see people's growth too.
I love that part of
Yeah.
it. And I love seeing who stays the same and who changes. Because a lot of
Yeah.
people do change. They get a bit, like we talked about, they get some money and some fame and they become assholes.
When you see that stuff, though, it's kind of hard not to. Like, some of these people that have had success, like Justin Bieber, for example,
Yeah.
like, he was just like a kid, like you said, like
But
14
that's
years
a difference.
old.
It was
You don't even
he
know,
has the
like-
money, but the fame is tough. It's
Yeah.
so
So
good.
when you look at Justin Bieber, it's like if you ask your grandmother, 90 years old, who's Justin Bieber, knows who he is. You ask a 2-year-old kid, Justin Bieber, he'll sing a Justin Bieber song.
Yeah.
And that's across the world. So he's the most famous, popular person
Yeah.
in the world.
That's the problem.
So he
It's-
can't go anywhere, right? You can't, you know, it's you see a lot of celebrities out, and I hate to ask them for a picture because
Yeah.
it's like, you know, or you ask them,
Yeah.
and they give you an attitude, and I walk in like, you know what? There's like Scottie Pippen was at a restaurant, Barbusa, we're talking about that in Little Italy, and he was sitting behind me, and it's like afterwards, we were those guys that took a picture and they gave. And people like, man, he looked like he was. I'm like, I stopped and said, he's so recognizable. Everybody
Yeah.
sees him. Oh, there's Scottie Pippen. So everywhere he walks,
He's tall
hey,
as
can I get a
shit.
picture? Hey, can I get a picture? You're driving in a car and people go, hey, there's Scottie. Hey, pull out their phone. So of course, when he's getting dinner, the last thing he wants is
Yeah.
Can I get a
knucklehead.
picture?
Yeah, right. But it's not that he's probably a bad person in any means. But you're right. When
No,
you get
they
to a
just-
certain fame
their
level,
time. They want it's their time to,
Right.
you know.
which is tough because you get so excited when you see them. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's Justin Bieber at dinner. Let me get a picture. And Justin throws food at man. It goes on TMZ. Justin was a dick. He threw food at somebody. I'm like, he probably was telling him for 20 minutes to get away. He's trying to finish his dinner.
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know?
it's like only the
Finally,
piece
he's
of the
just like,
story.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
What's your favorite concert you've ever been to?
Favorite concert?
Like artist you've seen live? Because you probably seen.
You know what's funny is, and it has nothing to do with hip hop or top 40, but I saw Bruce Springsteen years ago in Boston, and it was the coolest experience seeing him on stage because it was like a full rock show. I think it was like my first full rock show that I saw. I'm like, I was in awe
Yeah.
of like the E Street Band and Bruce Springsteen and just being the macho dude on stage. And I was probably in my teens at the time, so that stands out as a concert that
That's cool.
I really liked. I mean, I've gotten to go to so many. I'm fortunate for
That's
that.
insane.
And lots
Yeah.
of great. You know, Drake's been great, and you know, I saw Future in LA, and I've been backstage. You know, at this one, I got New Kids on the Block. I mean, again, not really in the cool realm, but they're from Boston.
No, I mean, it's probably fun to see
and one of
them
my
now.
best
I mean,
friends,
I would go see him.
one of my best friends, is in the boy band O-Town, the old boy band.
Oh,
so he's
okay.
tied in with New Kids, so he was able to get us backstage for that. And Donnie Wahlberg's talking to me, and they put me and my buddy in their prayer circle that they do. So it's like Joey McIntyre and Donnie Wahlberg, and I'm like, as like a 10-year-old, 12-year-old kid, I wanted to go to their concert, and I couldn't
It's, like,
afford
nostalgic,
it. And
yeah.
now I'm sitting there like
Yeah.
I'm backstage holding their hands before they go. This is damn cool. So I've had moments of that because of my career. Prior to my career, I'd say Bruce Springsteen. It was something that, you know, got tickets into from a friend, and we went to the concert. So I think that stands out because it had nothing to do with my career. It had to do with, as a kid, I'm like, this is cool. Bruce
I was
Springsteen's
wondering
in
if you
town.
can say hip hop. I don't know who was on the radio. They've seen like you every concert,
Yeah.
everything, and someone was like, they're like, I just saw my favorite artist this weekend. Everybody's like, what? And it was who's the red haired guy?
Ed Sheeran.
Yeah, he's like, I
Awesome
saw
show.
Ed
Yeah.
Sheeran. He's like, best concert I've ever seen. I've seen every hip hop.
Yeah.
This guy, I mean, I don't know, somebody on the radio. Yeah,
But you know, it's funny you said, because I've mentioned that to people too. Ed Sheeran is so talented. You can check him on YouTube. He does some of his songs. He's a one-man band, basically. He loops his stuff and does it. And his concert, I did, one of my top 5 was his because I remember he said, you know, everybody says I'm a fake because I don't have a band, and they paid all these money for these tickets, and it's just one guy. He goes, I got a band, and he starts, you know, making sound effects here and playing the drum, and he starts looping it, and he does his full set of music all off of this set.
That's why this guy said
I
it
think
was
he does that on
awesome.
Instagram. I've seen
Yes,
those.
yes,
Yeah,
Instagram and
yeah.
videos. But I'll tell you, so that was a great experience as well. I mean, that stands out again. I guess a lot of the moments that I get are because of my career gives me these cool opportunities. So sometimes, again, I bring it back to my childhood before I had all this cool stuff that I got to do. I remember, I guess the Bruce Springsteen one stands out as that concert as a kid. Like, that was cool. I just went to a concert, and that was awesome.
I was actually a huge fan of Bruce Springsteen.
Were you?
I still have you don't even see. My brother asked me last night, he said, you saw that thing where your aunt bought you the cassette? It was the 4 cassettes of Bruce Springsteen. I have it.
I
Like,
remember that.
it was
That's
like,
funny.
yeah.
You grew up in the East Coast as well. I think that's it. He was like an East Coast
Yeah,
stamp.
I
I
haven't
know.
seen
My
that.
brother was like,
For
was
those
like,
of
what's
you who
with
do
you
not
and
know
Bruce
what a
Springsteen? I'm like,
cassette
I don't know. I just liked it.
Yeah.
Give me a break.
Yeah. But it's fun, yeah. And I like going to concerts. I appreciate them differently now, too, being in the radio and media business. Because beforehand, you go because you're a fan, right? I'm going to go see Drake because I love him and music. I kind of am more on the back. I'll watch and I'll pick up on stuff that he's doing and learning about the artist more so than listening for the music. It's like the stage presence and how they handle stuff and how the crowd reacts to things. I kind of think I look at it in a different light now.
Oh, for sure.
Which is kind of cool. You know, I wouldn't say it's a jaded light. It's more of like a brightened light because I'm like, oh,
you're more like looking at their craft.
Yes, very much so. Because
you know
they're entertainers, and that's what we are on the radio is entertainers. So I'll see what they did, or like DJ Khaled, how he hypes up things certain ways and gets the crowd intent. And you can also see it during a concert when the crowd kind of goes this way, and you can see like the artists will come back with like a hit song to bring them back in. So they're adjusting their playlist as they go, and it's kind of cool to watch it from that standpoint.
That's awesome.
Monty, you got to ask the question because that's the one I want to know about that. I'm curious about that.
About
your highlighted question.
Yeah, sounds good. So, I mean, you posted already on social media and all that stuff. You're pretty good at that. But how much time do you spend outside of the show planning and creating?
Yeah, we were curious about that.
That's a good amount. You know, it's funny because that's the thing about mornings, too, is your life becomes, as we talk on the radio. So my day is always planning. I talk about stuff that goes on, the good, the bad. You know, I keep on getting parking tickets because my damn registration sticker that I ordered a month ago hasn't come in yet.
Yeah,
and every time I go to work out downtown, I keep on getting tickets. So I've been going off on the air about it, like, you know, a few times. I'm like, what am I supposed to do? Like, I have to park on the street. My gym is a street parking gym, you know. But as I get in that ticket, like first I'm mad because I got another $32.50 ticket that came up but back in my head I'm like, this is great. Tomorrow at 7:20, I'm gonna complain about this again on the radio.
Yeah.
So like, you know, so my show prep happens all day. But what I normally do is I'll go home.
It's like you want something funny or you got like
and I'll email myself on the side sometimes, you know, or text myself.
You got to remember that thing.
And then I'll before I go to bed, I'll usually spend about 45 minutes to an hour at night typing up. We do it as a morning show. Myself, Tati, and our producer Sapphire would be like 5 things that happened in my day today that we should bring up at some point.
Wow.
5 bigger things that happen in the day lifestyle. Because, you know, I'm not there with Tati and Sapphire or anybody else in the show all day long. So I want to know what's going on in their lives. So we kind of let each other do that. Then we'll start doing prep for Tristan Thompson and cheated on Khloe Kardashian and what's the inside scoop on that. And we'll do that. And not only just to report it, but what's our take on it and how can we turn this into a topic. And, you know, there's stuff that was going on YouTube. Big with parents right now where these like
the Momo
Momo's coming out.
That's freaky.
And it's basically it's a video like you're watching YouTube and out of nowhere this like splice out to like this monster looking face and tell you to kill yourself.
It's actually really creepy.
And it tells kids to poke your eyes out. You know, nobody wants to see your eye. It is terrible. Yeah, but it's this big thing that's in it hit. So on the news a couple days ago.
It's like on YouTube Kids.
Yeah,
right?
YouTube Kids and we're talking. So anyway, so I see it come up on, you know, Fox 5 News will mention it, and then I'm gonna go online and learn more about this. And during my prep, so now I have my thoughts on this. And then Tati's a parent on the show. Like, what questions could I ask Tati to get advice at other parents? So that's all my hour prep that I do. So I have the day long stuff that goes on. So I'd say about an hour sit down on my computer, but all day long. And then in the morning before we go on the air live, we kind of bring all of our ideas together and build a one sheet, kind of like you guys have here, like
so
things
that
that we should talk about. And obviously we diverge from it. Sometimes something happens during the show and we sway from it, but we have a game plan that we build.
I mean, you help also with like the playlist too, right?
Yeah, so I'm the music director, so I actually schedule all the music for the station, so which is kind of cool as well. Wow. It's a lot of work. That takes me.
See, that's gonna take a lot. I mean,
that's about an hour.
Do you guys get the music in, like people sending you, or you have?
So that's record label side stuff. So I meet as a music director. I deal with the record labels and the artists, and sometimes the artists directly, but oftentimes it's their labels, and it's a marketing plan for them. So you know, Ariana Grande has a new song out, or Drake has a new song out. The label has a marketing push. Hey, this song's dropping on Monday.
So you get it before anybody, probably, you know. Okay.
A lot of times we'll get it where it'll be watermarked. We can't do anything with it, but they'll say this song is going to actually be released on Monday. We're not actually going for radio play for another 3 months. What we want to do is bring this new artist by, get you to know them a little bit, have you listen to the song, talk to the artist about the song. They build this marketing plan, and then they go for it. Mm-hmm. But on the same hand, they don't want to go to the next song on an album. So people will be like, there's 12 songs on the album. You guys keep on playing God's Plan by Drake. There's other good songs. Right, but the marketing of the label doesn't want you to.
That's why.
So it's like, you know, you look at sneakers, if you're sneakerhead and, you know, the new Jordans come out. You know, they're not going to just all of a sudden the next day release another pair of Jordans. They want to maximize that. And then they have the Jordan XYZ 3s are coming out in 3 months, and they'll send you a picture so you see it and you get kind of hyped up about it, but you're still buying the other ones. It's a marketing plan.
Okay, that's what it's about.
And they don't want us stepping out of line of their plans. We could, but it's a relationship. You know, we're trying to help them and they're trying to work with us. But yeah, so we get that, and I meet with my boss, who's the program director, and we go over the songs, we build our playlist, and then I personally schedule the music. So I basically build an iPod, 24-hour iPod every day. So when you hear the music on Jamn 95.7, I'm choosing where they're going to play and how they're going to flow, which is kind of cool. That takes me about an hour and a half to 2 hours to do each
I thought it was gonna be
log
longer. Wow.
for each
You got
day.
it down.
So
You're fast now, huh?
yeah, but I'm in 7 days of it, so it's about 15 extra hours plus a week of doing that. So it's an hour and a half per day. But it's cool when you're driving in a car and somebody's listening into the station. I'm not on the air, but I'm like, they're listening to that song right now because I chose to put it there, which is kind of a cool vibe too. Wow. So I do that from home. I'm able to schedule it all from my apartment. So I sit at home, watch TV, enjoy myself while I'm doing the work. So answer your question long form, probably 2.5 hours a night in front of a computer prepping between the music and the show.
How do you guys how do you make sure that it keep the show interesting? Like, do you guys watch the ratings and if
we have ratings we got
are...
to watch and we got to keep an eye on that. But I mean, again, it's real life stuff. It's how do you find something going on in your life and twist it that it's real but in an interesting way? And that was it's funny. We had today we had a thing called San Diego Leaders where you nominated people that are doing well in the community, and we highlighted 3 of them on our show today. And the first one came on and telling this long story. And, it was good. And then we had to stop at the end to the next one and say, so that story that's like this big, that's our life. We have to find ways to take it so it's like this. And I explained to them, it's like, have you ever been in a conversation with somebody and mid-conversation, all of a sudden they're on their phones, like, oh yeah, that's cool. And they're not really paying attention. It's because your story is just so long-winded you've lost their interest. And when we're on the radio, we have to think about that story, that long-winded story, and how do I condense it so that while you're sitting in your car, you're like getting closer to the radio versus thinking about turning the dial. I think that's part of the art form of doing radio.
For sure, yeah.
But it's also about doing it over and over and over again. I'm sure when you started your first podcast, your questions are a little bit different, and you're learning as you go on what to ask.
Not so and then you jerky with your questions.
For sure, it goes like to when I interview somebody before, and it's like, so you have a new song coming out. That's cool. What's it like? And ours are like, what is this? But then you realize that then they go to the next radio station. It's like, how do you become creative with stuff? And
how do I have a conversation but keep it entertaining, right? 'Cause really, that's the best way it flows. Yeah.
Yes, instead of just you get creative with how you position your stories. So my parking ticket, I could be like, this sucks. I got a parking ticket, or I'm like, hold on, time out. Let me make this a real story. So a month ago I signed this and I'm getting real riled up. So I'm thinking in my mind, how can I take this little situation, make it a creative story? Yeah. But that goes to, like I was saying, it's like a day long of show prep, because when something happens in my life, first thing I think of, because you're radio minded, is how do I turn this into a good story that's a minute and a half to 2 minutes to deliver on the radio and make people want to call in and chime in on it.
Yeah, it's funny because I was just listening. We're doing some other kind of sales thing, and they were talking about giving speeches, which I think is kind of relatable to what you do. But it's like the inflections in your voice and the kind of way that you kind of position things. There's definitely a craft to it.
They call it the elevator speech, right? Where you want that speech. I was in a meeting the other day, and they said, position. Think about yourself when you're telling a story. It's a 19-story building, and you walk in with either a listener or your boss, and you only have to the 19th floor to tell them everything you want to tell them and make sure that they're engaged on it. How can you do that? So you think about it. It's like, all right, well, I got 45 seconds of my sales pitch, because they're going to walk out of that elevator, and if you didn't sell them on it, then you might never get a chance to sell them again. Right. And it's interesting to think about that. It's on the radio, too. You have somebody in the car, and if they're not interested, they can punch out so quick, and you might not get them back. So I have that elevator speech, I know I got you for 15 minutes of time in your car. I want to best utilize your time.
And you're competing with all these other different things that they might be interested in, too.
The cell phone is good and bad, right? I mean, when I'm in traffic, as much as you're not supposed to be on your phone, I'm stuck in traffic.
I mean, who is not on their phone?
Busted.
Right? Yeah. But, let me see what's on Instagram. And all of a sudden, it's like you lose that. But if I'm engaged in something going on, I was listening to sports radio the other day, and they were talking about Manny Machado. And I'm like, I'm trying to get up. Like, where are the Padres going with this? What's going on? What's going to happen with Bryce Harper next? And, they're telling me all that. I'm like getting close to my radio. Like, this is what I want. Second that they didn't, I noticed. I'm like, all right, back to my phone.
Yeah.
But again, when you can find a way to spark somebody's interest and tell a story that's engaging. Yep. It's an art, but it's fun.
The thing that sucks about radio is I don't know, maybe it's me. It's like, why are there commercials on all at the same time? You're going through. You're like, I'm staggering this shit.
I know they all need to coordinate.
I'm sure it's.
There's different ways of trying to win quarter hours when it comes to ratings and stuff, and then a lot of times, you can see where people are at, and you're trying to work in on how to keep audience going.
Well, you guys, there's a method to it.
Very much so, and that's the other thing too. We're telling some of the leaders in studio today, they're asking radio questions, and there's a method to radio. It's like, man, you guys should play all this local music, or you guys should play track number 14 that nobody plays on the radio off of this album. Why? And it's like, well, that's not how it works. Like, I don't just wake up in the morning and say, this is my new favorite song, and I'm going to put this on 20 times today, right? There's magic to it. Why are you guys playing commercials? It sucks when you have them. Well, that's how bills get paid, and that's how this radio station stays on. Yeah. Believe me, it's like, when you're stopping down, I get your frustration that you want to hear another song of that, but you have to think, it's a business, right?
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah,
anything
it's
you're doing.
Flow.
But it's funny that you say that, because you're right. Things are structured and set in certain ways that If you
Like
listen to
every radio station has commercials at the same time. Once in a while, you're like,
You just
I
find
got
yourself
one.
like,
Yeah,
for sure.
But people
Yeah.
click. They're
Yeah.
clicking.
They do.
Yeah.
And that's also, in radio, it's called like a radio tease. You want to say something that's like, oh shit, I know I have to get back in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I don't want to miss this. Or
Yeah.
when we're talking about X Chronicles and there's too much on the phone and
That's who you're getting. We're gonna do it here. We're getting remind.
Yeah,
do that too.
he
Yeah.
says he got
Yeah.
trapped because she got pregnant. She's saying that it wasn't trapped. 7:35 will have them on the.
Yeah.
So now you're like, oh shit, I feel like I got trapped at one point in my life. I got to see.
I'm like, wait a minute, 7:35. Like, no, it's 7:45. We got to take this call real quick. With 7:45, they're just like,
So
it's
you're
good
pulling it
though.
along.
You guys are pulling.
And our goal is, because I know that as much as
Yeah.
I wish you would be on from 6 to 10, you'd be listening to the radio nonstop. You have other things in life.
Yeah.
My goal is to have you listen a bit longer, but also bring you back because I know you're gonna leave at some point for whatever reason
Yeah.
it is. But if I set that
It's
appointment of, I'm gonna do a Jamboozle prank at 7:08 and it's gonna be about a guy whose dog pooped on another guy's lawn. Dude, my neighbor keeps on having the same. I don't see what. So you try to find a way of reeling them in and pulling them in, and that's our little thing. So when you hear the commercials, the same spots and all that, my goal is to make sure you come back to us once you punch around.
Yeah.
How do you keep? This is something we were talking about too.
Yeah.
Is we started this podcast. I mean, it was you're a couple months in, and we just kind of like. When I went to Gary Vee, I wanted to do it, and then it's like, you put shit together and it's happening. It's just like these things, which is cool, right? You think of something, you imagine it, just like you want to be on the radio. Next thing you know, you're on the radio doing this. How do you keep, though, like long term, like, whether it's your brand, yourself, like we were talking about with you, is like, when she mentioned your name, I was like, oh, yeah, you're on 93.3. Like, it's recognizable, right? Like, people know who you are because if you've driven in a freaking car and hit the button, you probably have heard you on one of the stations over the last 10, 12 years.
Yep.
But having a career in radio now that long, it's like it's not just that easy. Like you got to keep like relative or
relevant.
Relevant.
Yeah.
You got to be relevant, to the audience.
Well, it's funny, like we're talking about the 360. So with like a podcast or anything that you're doing, I always say with radio is, I have so many people in San Diego that can listen, but then you have YouTube videos and you have social media. You can hit the whole world with that. So how do you get more people engaged into it and get creative? I mean, utilize everybody in all aspects around you, with your podcast and what you're doing. You make sure you're letting people know on social media what you guys have going on because you're not just talking to San Diego. I mean, this could be watched in Japan or in Europe, and it's a way of, I guess my brand is built, again, with the changes of life in media is social media. I mean, I think that helps me longevity as you build your brand. You get 30,000 followers and 40,000. You keep growing that. It's bringing people re-engaged to your life. So even like people that have moved from San Diego to another city, they'll still sometimes listen in because they're still following my life on social media. They might have moved to Seattle, but I'll get a tweet. Man, I remember listening to you on 93. Now you're on 95.7, and I listen to you here all the time, but I'm in Seattle. But, man, I saw you post this picture about you and your girlfriend. And so you're engaging people that, as they move on out of the city or other cities that can come in. The person in Boston I was telling you about comments every damn day, DMs me every day. But it's so cool that they're still intrigued with my life, even though I don't live in Boston anymore. So I think with anything through the years, you have to adjust with the times. But the biggest adjustment now is social media, just growing your brand exponentially outside of the microphone.
That's why reality TV did so well because it
does.
Like
I became friendly with Colton, the Bachelor this year. Another relationship. I was hosting a dodgeball tournament years ago when he was playing for the Chargers, and his last name was Underwood, and one of my best friends from O-Town, his last name was Underwood, and it's like, we're like, dude, we have to get you a picture with him. It's just so funny. I had no idea who he was. He was like a bench player for the Chargers. Stayed in contact with him through social media, back and forth. He followed my life and then he becomes a Bachelor, and he's on ABC and all this stuff, and it's so funny seeing that. But then reality TV, I'm watching the show because I watch it because he's on. I'm like, I kind of know him. My girlfriend's like, I love this stuff. I'm like, I can't, what is going on with this show? Like, I can't understand a damn thing going on. These girls are so petty. But you know what? It makes you want to say, well, what's going to happen next week? So you like reality TV, people get intrigued. Like, I couldn't stand it, man. What time is it on again? It's Monday at 8 o'clock. Like, it pulls you back in, right? And it's so funny how reality TV does that. And that's what radio is. That's what podcasts are.
Or like a damn Game of Thrones. They like,
I purposely don't watch certain things because I'm like, nope, I'm not getting sucked into that.
Another big show out there now is The Masked Singer, and I remember watching the first episode. I'm like, this is the dumbest thing. They have singers covered up. Who cares? And then all of a sudden,
keep watching it.
Kept watching it. I want to know who the monster was. And who is this? It's like you get mad at yourself almost. Like, damn it, they got me. But now I'm ready for next season to launch. So I think you're right. Life is a reality show now, and if you look at it that way, when it comes to your content on your podcast, me and my radio show, or your social media, people are following your life and your brand and what you are, and they get intrigued by it. Gary Vee, great example of like I would say kind of a nerdiest dude that was just like whatever, and then he figured out his brand. He's going to become this emotional speaker, and all of a sudden everybody knows who he is, and they follow his life. And I see him walking the streets of New York with the phone out, and he's talking where he's going to and doing
And
this.
it's funny because he says a lot of the same stuff over and over
He does.
again, too.
But he's so
But that's him.
It's
like,
him.
that's who he is.
He's real, and I'm
Yeah.
curious, like, where's he going to
Yeah.
be next, and who's he going to talk to next, and what's he going to say next?
Yeah.
So his reality TV show is him and his crazy outbursts and his ways of showing stuff. But he's got millions of followers. Gary Vee went from this like guy that was just
on YouTube doing the wine video.
wine video.
We actually went back because when we were
That's
looking
so
at
funny.
starting
I watched
and
it
watched
from
like
the
the
beginning,
first wine
70.
videos.
Good for you. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I haven't done that. I've seen clips of it, but I haven't dove into
It's
it.
funny. And then so when I was there, this is interesting. You'll find this interesting. So when we were in there, before we went, his team, I said, hey, can we like get D-Rock or them to talk after we're done with the thing, just to like hear their side of it.
Yeah.
So Gary came in. So we did like it's the 4D. So he comes in, but he came in for 2.5 hours and like hung out in the conference room and spoke with all of us. And then I wasn't paying attention. I was over here, and all of a sudden D-Rock walks in, and I was like, I just said, oh shit, D-Rock, and he's like, what's up? The nicest human being on this planet, the nicest. And he's so humble, he doesn't want to talk about it. But anyways, Andy gets on there, and Andy's like, guys, the vlogging, vlogging does, it was D-Rock. And everybody's like, what? And he goes, D-Rock, tell me the story. And D-Rock's like, well, I got hired, and I thought, like, wouldn't it be cool if I just, follow Gary around the camera? And then I put it up, and Gary's like, no, I don't want to do that, stupid. Like, kept on.
Right.
And finally one day, I'm coming in and I'm doing this, or you can fire me. He's like, fine, just do whatever you want to do, whatever. So he's like, what are you gonna do? He's like, I'm gonna follow you around with this camera. So he follows him around. He goes back, edits the thing up, comes back and shows it to Gary. But Gary's like, we're doing this full time, and that's how vlogging got started. And then everybody created it. But it's just crazy because you see this, and D-Rock just had this vision. This guy's crazy. I gotta film him around.
Yeah.
Like, people gotta see this guy. And D-Rock saw that, and then D-Rock literally filmed all day, went home at night, and worked till 3:45 in the morning, did all the editing, and then was launching stuff. And that's where they're doing the podcast and Daily V.
Smart.
So crazy.
But it built while he was doing that. He was finding who he was, and they're finding people are starting to follow it. And it's intriguing. It's intriguing to see that, and I think that's what's the cool thing about. I keep on saying social media, but it's like that and YouTube. Like I say it to artists all the time, like, nobody's finding me, nobody listens to my music, and my music's so good, but I say, put it on YouTube. I'll tell you right now, if you get a song on YouTube that gets millions of views and goes viral, a record label's going to find you. Because that's what they're doing. A&R teams are looking on YouTube and trying to find that next star.
Because you want it. Because it's like, you're just haunting for
They're looking for the next thing, but these artists are like, I ain't putting my stuff up on YouTube. But you get that all the time. These musicians that get so frustrated that their music's not getting found. But I'll say it. What's your social media following? Well, I got like 100 followers on Instagram. I'm like, let's get that going. Get that to 100,000, What's your YouTube? I don't even have a page.
Like Gary says, a song a day. And
but be consistent. Be consistent.
Thinking of that Gary came on Gary, and Gary always loved. Now he's huge. Russ.
Russ,
oh,
yeah,
it's
funny.
I love
right?
Russ.
Yeah, you might
Russ is good. It's so funny because I've gotten to meet him a couple of times, and I only say that because when you meet him as a regular dude, we actually went bowling downtown for a thing with listeners, and I was like, oh, cool, guys. We play his music a little bit. It's like he hasn't had like a major hit yet, but he sold out the Staples Center 2 nights in a row. It's like this dude who was...
Because he's more known on social media.
He is known on social media.
What's the one song that kind of got Russ's like?
I couldn't even tell you.
Yeah,
Like,
he got the one. Then he's just traveling. And
he travels, but he has like music that people love on YouTube. He's signed to a label. We play, like I said, one of the songs a little, but his big thing is he just has such a big YouTube following.
That's it, right there. That's what you just
and
said.
also too, he's kind of real. Like he shows like him with his mom and like all this kind of stuff. And like you said, when someone's like more invested in your life and your journey too, it's so helpful.
It does, and that goes back to the reality thing. You invest yourself into that person, and you just want to see what happens.
Like I say too, like with hairdressers, when all you're posting is hair every single day, you're like, dude, what else do you do besides hair? Like nobody wants to see like blonde hair, more blonde hair, brown hair. I
got that with the radio.
Want a number?
Yeah, exactly.
When IG stories started getting big a couple years ago, a year and a half ago, I was posting a lot of just work. Here's me working. Here's me working. Somebody said, live your life on that thing. Like, let people know what you're doing. You're going to the gym or you're cooking dinner.
It's not all about radio.
You're cleaning. Yeah, because people want to dive into your life. Yeah. And you almost have to step back when you're a hairdresser and you're so focused on getting my next client and how great was my, hair coloring that I did in this. So you get so focused on this and you forget that when you go meet with a hairdresser, you want somebody you can talk to as well.
People work with you because they like you.
Because they like you.
Yeah.
The same with me, and I had to learn that on radio. I was able to do it on the air, but on social media, it took me a while to be like, all right.
It's hard.
I'm here in the bathroom. My bathroom's a mess, and I got to jump in the shower, and I'm running late. If you post something stupid like that, you know how many more messages you get than, hey, I'm at work again. People are like, of course you're at work. That's what you do. You work at the radio
Yeah.
station.
Or it's like crafted today. We're going on the
Yes,
radio
yes.
to,
Man,
You
yeah.
know, or
yeah,
like,
yeah.
you know, when I was putting up a Christmas tree, my girlfriend was putting it up, I'm videotaping her doing it. I'm just laughing about it. And people are like, are you going to get up off your ass and help her? Like, what?
Yeah.
Some people start coming at you, but then, you know.
I did see that. Yeah,
so
that was
it-
funny. I was like, this dick. Like,
Yeah, right. But, you know, that was really videotape it. But
That's
it
like
was-
Kenny.
Yeah, exactly. But
Yeah, that's
and
what
that's
he
why,
does.
and that's
No, I
that's
put
why.
it up. You just put the shit on it.
Oh no, I'm just like
They
in
were
labor
melting.
and Kenny's in my
She's
face.
She's like, that looks
Like,
stupid.
yeah,
I was like,
yeah.
exactly. That's why I don't do it.
But you know,
yeah.
but that's why I do what I did, because you guys have that conversation. So then Tati sees it, my co-host, and like, her, did you really have, you know, was
Yeah.
she really doing? I'm like, I didn't realize it's such a big deal. Knowing in my head, it was kind of radio based, because I knew that turned into a story. But I was literally on my couch like, this is funny. But I posted, I'd say a year ago when I was on social media, I probably wouldn't do that because my apartment was a mess. You know, I'm
Yeah.
being lazy on the couch while she's doing this, and like, but I'm like, you know, that's what people want. So, you know, Gary V, all these people
They
start
want the
showing their real
real
life.
deal.
Yeah.
Gary V doesn't always, I mean, does always most, but you see him walking the streets or he's eating some food. He's like, man, it's been a long day. He's like telling you about his life and what he's going through.
Yeah.
It brings you deeper into him versus just being that. Or the hairdresser, if you know about the fact that she's got a young kid that's having a birthday party,
Yeah.
you sit down and get your hair cut with her and like, so how'd that birthday party go?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now she's cutting your hair and it's like you have this bond,
For sure.
which is so true. But if you're just posting the hair, if I'm just posting radio, you guys are just posting real estate. It's like, are these people human or is this like a computer?
Kenny's so much better about it than me. Like he's super active.
I don't
yes.
even know if I'm
But-
like that active as much.
You're-
I'm
you're
really-
active.
In the
People-
morning, I'm active.
In
I've
the
been
morning,
doing,
you're
I've been
active
doing
because
rants
you're
in
up
the
at
morning.
4:30. Yeah.
People
Yeah.
reach out to me because they watched Kenny's stories and whatever he's talking about. Like this morning it was like, oh really? Like your baby's waking up multiple times. I have this girl, like she can
Yeah.
have this sleep consultant come home. Like people will reach out to me from Kenny's
funny.
stories,
Oh,
and
yeah,
like you
that's
said
true.
again, like people want
They
to
want to talk
help.
about, they want to help, and they want to talk
Yeah,
about your
they
lives
do.
and feel like they
Yeah.
know you guys and
Yeah.
know you more than they do.
Yeah.
It's actually funny because I've done some Instagram and I put myself out there. Like even Ramy didn't do it. Then he saw me. He's the one that said, hey, you're motivating me. Like I motivate people and I go, and they're like, you know, it's in their head. I go, dude, get over your fucking self.
Yeah.
Dude. Just
Yeah.
nobody, at the end of the day, like Gary says, nobody gives a fuck. They don't care.
Everybody else is too busy to really
Yes.
care too
Yeah.
much. It's
They
like,
might care for 1 minute. Oh, how stupid. They're on to the next
one.
thing, dude.
I couldn't tell you
Like,
any of the
people's
stories I
attention
watched
is
earlier
so-
today.
No,
So
but,
short,
but
yeah.
at the
And
time,
it's
they're
only
funny
on for
entertaining.
24
Yeah.
hours
Yeah.
anyways. You
Yeah.
know?
But I'll tell you, the ones that
It's-
stand out are the ones that you become involved in, right? So, you know,
Yeah.
I've gone through my IG stories all day today, and I couldn't tell you one thing, but I will tell you the ones that I'm following their lives a little bit more. Somebody's on a trip and they're going to Spain. It's like, you know what? I kind of make
fucker.
sure to
Yeah.
check. Yeah, like,
Yeah.
I can't believe I'm stuck in here. And
Exactly.
but every day I'll go look at their story and see like
Yeah.
what they did, or like
Yeah.
you know, and then I'll see like, man, I can't believe you were in a small boat in the Riviera. Like, how'd you know? Like, you posted it. But, you know, I get excited to see that person that's on vacation and talk to them about that. Or a restaurant, you know, when you see, like, a bunch of people that are restaurant people that love to post about different restaurants they go to, it's like you start, like, I wonder where they're going to go next. So you start building that brand where it's, you
Or you're
remember
at a
those ones.
restaurant and they're like, oh shit, where's that at? You know,
Yeah,
it's
100%.
just like, yeah, like if you're somewhere good, it's like, dude, post
Post about
people,
it. Tell people what you're doing because I'm
Yeah.
curious, and you start finding those
It's
ones
good
that
for
you care about.
business too. Like, you know, it's funny. We've been going to places, and I'll just take a picture and I tag the restaurant.
Yep.
I mean, before nothing. Now I'm in there. It's like this
Yes,
quick. They're like,
they
thanks
repost it.
to the post. Like they're getting
Oh, yeah,
smarter
they're
too.
on it.
Restaurants. I'm like, before I'm like, why aren't these fucking people
You're
recognized?
marketing
Yeah,
them.
you are.
You're
No,
driving
but they're
people
saying
in.
thank
Yeah,
you
they
like
love
5
it.
minutes.
Yeah.
Like we were at that place down there in Little Italy. You know, the one in the place in the corner.
Oh, I saw that. I saw the notification for that one.
Oh yeah, the farmers market.
Right.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
we were
I was like,
there,
what?
whatever, and then I
Yeah.
posted, and all of a sudden it's like, boom, they.
Oh,
they,
farmer's table.
Oh, the farmer's
Yeah,
table.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
farmer's
No,
table.
but they
Yeah.
were like,
Yeah.
it's right in your neighborhood. They were
Yeah.
like, boom, 5 minutes. I was
And
like,
it's smart.
and I think the lady even like walked by that did it because she's smiling.
Yeah.
That's what the hell she's smiling at. But I think
Sure.
it's probably her.
But you know,
post.
she's making a personal connection, right?
Exactly.
And we talk about that a lot on the radio or in real estate or in hairdressing or whatever it is. Like that personal connection brings you back for more. And I think that, you know, to your original question, how do you make the podcast and stuff fresh and keep going? Make those personal connections with people. If somebody in Europe happens to find your podcast and says, hey, you made me laugh today, hit them back with a response. That's so awesome. I'm glad. Wait till you see the next one we're going to be putting out next Tuesday.
Yeah.
You start like engaging with them, or somebody in San
Yeah.
Diego tweets you back and is like, dude, I can't believe you had, you know, such and such on your show. Dude, it was awesome. I really like when he said this. You're not going to believe what such and such says. We're going to have them on next Wednesday. So all of a sudden you're involving them in yours, and they're like, oh, they're real people. Now they know who I am. You know, it's like it's that one-on-one connection. And again, it goes back to social media. You can either be a complete dick on it and not care that anybody's commenting, or you can spend 15 minutes of your day. I add it to my show prep time sometimes at night, and I'll just go through. And people say, man, you're really good at responding to people. I'm like, well, they took the time to get to my page and comment and say they listened.
That's a good attitude.
I'm
That's
an
cool.
idiot for not saying thank you or
Yeah.
commenting back, you know. So I'm getting better at that too, and I kind of set aside 15 to 20 minutes before bed of doing that.
It's a habit for sure. Like
But you have to force yourself to
We
do
were
it,
just
right?
having that conversation yesterday too about like, you know, engaging more and all that.
And you have to force yourself, because otherwise everybody's busy. Everybody gets tired at night, but not everybody wants to build a brand. I'm not saying you do, but if you do, I do, you do.
I always tell Kenny, I'm like, nobody's too busy for anything. If it's a priority, you do it.
We're talking about that.
Like, you're never too busy.
So I just talking about that same priority. Yeah.
It's funny because when we do real estate deals, like, oh yeah, well they're gonna put an offer. I'm like, we said that we go. Yeah, I go, look, dude. If they wanted a deal that bad, they'd have a fucking offer. We don't have an offer. They're not that serious. No, they're not serious. Like, we're like in the story, and I'm like, we're done with it. Like, that's how it is. If somebody wants something,
or when people don't call you back and they're like, sorry, I was so busy. You're like, no, I just wasn't a priority.
Yeah.
Like, no hard feelings, but like nobody's too busy to return a phone call.
You know, I do a podcast as well with my buddy PJ, and we had Todd Durkin on. Todd Durkin is the #1 trainer in America. He's based in Scripps Ranch, and his gym's a top gym in America too. And he was saying that one thing he had to learn to do is tell people a hard no. He said the #1 thing you can do to ruin a relationship is, hey, can you come on this podcast? Yeah, I think I can. I'm going to try my best. You know, it's like you might be busy and stuff, but, you know, you say it's going to be a yes. If something changes, I'll let you know as soon as I can.
Yeah.
But if you lead somebody on, it's like, I'll get back to you next Wednesday if I can. Then Wednesday comes, I still don't even know yet. If you know you're not going to do it, just say no.
Just say no.
If it's a job interview, it's going to be somebody. If they're looking at the house, they don't like the house. Just save your time every time. No, we're not. We don't want this house. It's not for us, right?
Yeah.
Because that's faster for you guys to find them something else. So they say to you, let me talk to my husband who's going to talk to his ex-wife, and we'll get back to you on Friday. Now you're just prolonging the situation. But he said the #1 thing to build better relationships is a hard no, and it might be tough at the time. If your friend says, let's get dinner tomorrow night, and you're like, let me see what's going on. Let me try. Just say yes or no, because you know
what's weird though.
Set the expectations, because Friday comes around, like dinner, like, oh man, so now my night's ruined because I was waiting on that. No, I can't. I'll make other plans then.
But you know what's weird though? People do it because they don't want to hurt people's feelings, or they don't want to let anybody down, or they feel bad.
That's exactly what Todd said. Todd said you feel bad. He goes,
but really, it's about
worse.
you. Like it's about you. Like you don't want to say it because you feel bad about it. It's like, no, that person would appreciate.
That would, because in the long run, you're just prolonging that issue. And I've learned that with a lot of things that I do in my business. You know, I'm getting pulled in different ways. Even artist interviews, if I can't get like somebody in, I don't want to be like, let me try to adjust it. It's like, if the artist isn't huge and we don't have time, it's a hard no. But next time you're in town, let's make sure you're first on my list.
Yeah.
You know, and it helps because record labels will come after me. You know, hey, you saw them give us an answer. Hey, we're trying to get this planned in for tomorrow. And then I realized they also have a boss that has a boss that has a boss. And they're trying to set a schedule for an artist. If I just said no at the get-go, perfect, fine, thanks, off the list, on to the next thing.
Yeah.
If I'm dragging them along, they have their bosses saying, so did you get an answer? So did you get an answer? So, Frankie, do you have an answer yet? I'm not sure. I'm trying my best to let you know. Back up the change, you know?
Yeah.
And all it does is it ruins my relationship with that artist, with that record label.
Yeah. And nobody's getting to like check that box. You're like, okay, that's off the list.
Yeah,
Let's move on. Like, it's still hanging around on yours. You're feeling bad about it. That other person's irritated.
And it helps you when we talk about relationships.
Yeah.
Building good relationships is being able to give a hard no versus maybe I'll let you know.
We were just having the conversation earlier today how I got stuck in a conversation and that I did not want to be in, and I'm like, oh no, why did I just like say no? I don't want to, I don't want to have this talk or whatever.
Or we were talking. I was like saying we went and got this massages at Karma Spa, and I'm okay. We do. It's like so.
She was. I could tell.
So I was on the table. This guy's like just like putting his like elbow in my back for like 15 minutes. I'm like, oh, and I'm like, didn't want to say anything because I'm just awkward like that sometimes. And then I'm like in my head, like, you're such a pussy, Crystal. Just like say it, just say it.
So I'm sitting there all of a sudden. She goes, could you please use your hands? I was like,
here they are relaxing.
Hey, and all of a sudden he's like, dun 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 to whatever the girl. I was like,
dude, I was literally battling myself for like 5 minutes.
That was the worst massage ever. And then she went to the front, and the girl's like, she goes, no, I'm telling her, okay. She goes, how's much? It was terrible. She goes, okay, we won't charge you. I was like, oh my God. Could you just use your hands?
I was going to let it go on, but I was like literally having this battle. I'm like, pussy, say it. And I was like, oh! I just like blurted out.
Sometimes it's tough to say it, but it's true. Had you said that, you would have had a better experience there. If you say a hard no to somebody, you have a better relationship there.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Going back on what you were saying, you have a new podcast going on, right? The Dinner with,
yeah.
Yeah, how's that going?
It's cool. I've been teamed up with PJ who works as one of the corners of Barbusa, and we were laughing because everyone wants an outlet outside of your number one. So I do some real estate stuff. I have a clothing line. I have my radio, but it's like, what else can I do to express myself? And I always go to Barbusa or dinners, and you have dinner with friends all the time.
Yeah.
You just have dinner with friends, and like, I don't know, I've never met you guys, but say we're at a dinner table, like, oh, you guys are cool. Take my number. We should hang out more often. You have those conversations. So PJ and I are like, how often does that happen that you have dinner with friends?
Hardly.
But, and you don't really connect. So we're like, it would be great to grab celebrities or grab different people and have dinner with them. Just like dinner with friends. We're just a bunch of friends having dinner because the conversations, right? You start out
breaking bread, right? They call it breaking bread.
Breaking bread, yeah, but you never know where a conversation is going to go.
Yeah.
And we're talking about, when you interview somebody, you don't want to be so structured. So you have a new song and this is going on. But it's like, how cool would it be to like have a celebrity or somebody with some experience in some part of life and just having dinner with them. And we came up with a concept dinner with, and it's been cool. We've had some pro athletes on, and we've had some trainers, we've had some reality TV stars on. But it's funny to just sit down and literally just, so what's going on in your life? So you're dating somebody, the conversation that comes up when you meet somebody new, it's like, man, where do you go shopping? I like your shirt. And it turns into things. So yeah, our podcast is fun. It's same as you guys with the video. We have a handful that we're doing, and it's just cool because it's a concept that we had that literally PJ is a restaurant owner. I talk for a living, and then there's celebrities that always have something to say. So it's all come together. And it's been pretty cool.
Fun.
Well, it's kind of cool though because those are the type of people that most people don't get to have dinner with, so you don't get into those conversations.
And we thought about that too. So what would you say if you're at dinner with Todd Durkin, the top trainer, and you want to know on a menu what can you actually eat when you're being healthy?
Yeah.
And it starts in the conversation about that, and it turned into him being telling me the stories about the hard nose and all this because he's such a motivational guy. He's kind of like a Gary V when it comes to stuff. But the reason I wanted to have dinner with him, I eat healthy and I go out a lot to eat for work. Like, what can I eat on the menu? And it literally went from him showing me what to eat to this whole tangent of motivation. I'm like, but that's what happens when you have dinner with friends. It's like, hey, you got to meet my buddy. My buddy, works for Toyota. And oh, perfect. I like Toyota. All of a sudden, he started talking about the fact that, he just got divorced and he can't stand his ex-wife. It's like, after a couple of drinks, anything can happen. So that's the concept we have for podcasts.
What's Jerry Seinfeld show? Coffee? What is it?
Oh, I know. Yes, but it's very similar, right? Anything can happen.
He picks him up in one of his cars.
Yep, and
then
conversation.
We like that show. That's a cool show.
It's great. It's smart.
Again, it's conversations you wouldn't normally have with people like that.
It's just, and then he gets comedians and all these people, but it's funny. They're in the car. He'll pick them in like the weirdest car and all this shit.
Well, he picks the car based on the person he's meeting with.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you again, it goes to the branding on that because a lot of the people that will get on or try to get on have a decent social media following too, so they'll post it and repost it, and it builds another way of just taking your brand and more outlets with it. And what that can do for my radio side is it could reach out to people that might not even know that I'm back in San Diego doing a radio show, or nationally they might find this and it's like, all right, so my personal radio brand grows off of some side little project, but it's fun. I mean,
and that's one of the things when we did this is like people are like, why did you do this? I said one of it is like, if I met you, like you and having dinner or having a conversation, you're gonna learn about me, I learn about you or whatever. Why not just do it on a podcast in front of a camera so people can hear it? But the other thing is that if I go talk to 50 people this year and those 50 people, their friends don't know me and they have 1,000 people on the average followers, that's 50,000 new people that I got 100%. To meet. And they're going to be like, who's this guy? Who's this girl? They might look you up, research you. Next thing you know, maybe they're in real estate or this or that. And there's a common denominator there. So it's cool. Another way of branding, but it's something that it's passion. And
it's fun. We always I call it a passion project for me when I do mine. It's like I have my career and I have my side stuff. I make no money off of that podcast. I probably never will. Yeah. But it's fun.
That's why it's fun because you know that. You're not worried about it. You didn't do it to make money. You didn't do it
I'm not worried about paying my bills by doing it. If it comes out shitty, it's like, oh well, we had free dinner and some drinks. It was all right. It's good. And I met a new friend,
Yep.
It's kind of cool.
What do you are you I know you talked about real estate. Are you kind of into real estate or is that
I am. I'm intrigued by it. It's cool. I have I do a lot of stuff. My brother as well, and we've got some properties that we flip on the East Coast and in the Midwest and learning about that. So I'm not very knowledgeable. My brother is pretty good in it, so he's kind of teaching me as we go. But I have some flip properties that we do, some hard money loan properties that we work with. And then I have my house that I bought in Boston that is my investment property with my brother living in it now, and it's kind of cool to see that. So yeah, I obviously you guys are the knowledgeable ones in real estate, but I'm so intrigued by it because I know that there's a lot of opportunity to create revenue. Secondary revenue.
Have your money work for you.
And it's exciting to see. It's funny when you buy stocks and you watch it. It's like, oh, it's this thing on it. But when you invest in a house that's going to be flipped and you actually get to see it, and it's like,
it's cool.
Here's where your money's going, and here's what's happening in the house, and here, then you flip. It's like, oh, that's kind of cool because it's tangible. You touch it, you
real
feel it.
Thing.
It's real, and it's cool. I've invested in a little bit into fitness gyms, a restaurant, a nightclub too, and it's cool to like see that and be a part of the process of the growth and the P&Ls and all that on the investment side of a business, and then it's cool to see the real estate side and being a part of projects and dealing with stuff. And I'm newer to the real estate side. My brother's been doing it for a handful of years, and he's got a big real estate guy that he works with and been doing projects with him, so I started to dabble, and it's kind of cool to So
it's a completely different business, like so different than what you're in. It's like,
so different. Again, it's like it's an outlet. You know, it's you work hard to build your bank account in certain ways and save, but how do you make your long-term wealth grow and security within life grow? And it's cool to see how real estate can help you have more of a security in life than just all your eggs in one basket. So, answer your question. Yeah, I'm dabbling in it, and it's cool. Learning as I go, researching as I go, but it's been fun.
It's a lot of it's fun. It's a lot of work, but it's
it is. It's a lot.
It's a long-term thing, you know.
That's the thing I say to people too. Like, well, what's your goal with real estate? I'm like, it's kind of long-term. One, I want to learn it as I go, but two, it's like cool to build something, flip, and then flip another, and then kind of use that. It's like, you know, when you gamble and you start doing well gambling, you just watch that money kind of develop.
Until it goes away.
Yeah, until it goes away. But the good thing about real estate, when you're gambling, you are buying a property and stuff, and the market's going to go up and down. I mean, you guys know more, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's going to go back up eventually.
It does.
It's like stock.
Yeah.
But versus the stock market that goes up and down, you see your money like, well, where did it go?
Yeah.
At least you have this house that you can hug and rub and say, this is mine, you know?
Yeah, like there's value in it. It's not just going to drop or go away. And like there'd have to be a disaster for that. And then also like this idea of passive income, like the money's coming in and you're not working for it, you know?
That was the big thing in my mind, you know, in media, you hope to be secure and you hope that it is, but, you know, it's like anything else, you know, if something changes, media changes, and it's like, you don't want to be, I never want to be that person that's like, all right, now what do I do? Let's have a plan already in place that might not be your A+ plan, like radio is, but a solid B+ or A- that you get that revenue stream, you have that going, and you're able to say, all right, I can breathe for a second and figure this out. Because a lot of people, I feel like in careers, if shit goes left, you jump into the wrong career next to the wrong move or the wrong radio station.
You're making that
You're
move.
desperate. You're doing
desperate,
that.
yes.
But you're making that move based off money and not in a position where you're like, I
Money
have
and
money,
emotion
I'm
versus
okay.
yes.
I have time. It's
You
like
have time.
it's a reaction, right?
Right,
Yeah.
you know, and if things change, you know, if I had more time, I would spend more time learning about real estate, you know, and I was having in my mind, if knock on wood, radio is good forever and I retire with it, but if something changes, like, all right, it would free me up time to learn more about my next project, you know?
Yeah.
So that's the cool thing about real estate too, and I think it's something that you guys do full time. It's a big thing for me. It's just such a side, small thing, but it's still something that I know is on my
It can be
platter.
lucrative, yeah. Even on the side, you can just, you know, we call it trading up. So, you know, you might own a house or two or three. It's like you can sell, and then we're believers of multifamily, right?
Yep.
Because multifamily is, you know, you have a house, you rent it, and somebody decides that they don't want to pay rent or something, you're stuck. There's nobody else paying that mortgage. It's like that guy wants to run
100% vacant.
So if you have 5 units, 10 units, whatever, you have more people paying. So if one doesn't pay, you're like, okay, maybe I might not make cash flow, but I'm not coming out of my pocket.
You know, it's funny you said my first property I bought in Boston was a 2-family. And it was great for that reason because, you know, you had the people coming in and out and we're able to cover. We ended up flipping that and turning that into some other stuff. But while the value was growing, we were able to grow the value on it without having to lose a penny because you had the people, you know, you had both sides of it being rented, one or the other. So during the couple years that we had that, we were able to flip that into bigger stuff. But yeah, the multifamilies are fun.
Yeah, it's a good. It's like honestly, it's just a good long term
investment.
Like, yeah. What do you in the community like? Because San Diego's changed so much, you know. Like, I mean, gosh, I think probably even when you're getting in radio, when you're radio here, like just going out in 2006, and now it's like
different.
The options. Like there's Little Italy. There was not really Little Italy.
No, not until recently.
And then we were every downtown. And I was like, we
I remember
stayed
like,
downtown. But I was like, I mean, maybe we're older, but I'm like, downtown doesn't seem fun. I'm all about Little Italy or something else. But are you out doing a lot of community stuff? Is that helping you build your brand? Are you out there? Like, do you do a lot of charity community stuff?
Yeah, for sure. You know, I love doing charity stuff, and you know, I get to host a lot of different charity events, and it's again, you have to be able to say the hard no if it's too much, you know, because I do a lot, but I try to say yes to as much charity events that are possible. Next weekend, I host a St. Baldrick's Shave-a-thon where they're shaving money for childhood cancer research, and you know, I try to do every week if there's something I could, but usually it's about once a month. There'll be something that I'll be asked to either MC or be a part of or help promote, and I love that stuff, and I love giving back. And I always say in radio, the coolest thing about my job, aside from all the real cool stuff that people see, is the platform, right? So I have an opportunity to use my voice and platform to help less fortunate people, and that's been the coolest part of my career. And being in San Diego for 12 years, I built a big network of people and friends, and hey, you're available to do this and did that, and you know, if it's a charity event, I try to never charge for that. It's donating my time and giving back, and it's fun, and I like building those, we talk relationships and those handshakes, because you know you're doing a good cause, and those ones become your loyal listeners too, right? Because
for sure.
you gave to me, and I can't believe they get to meet me on as a person, not just a radio personality. So yeah, I love charity events. I love doing that, and I do love the paid gigs too. If you want me to host your New Year's Eve party, I love Hard Rock on New Year's Eve. I get to rock the mic on that and do a lot of cool stuff like that too. So I love anytime I can be in the community doing stuff. It's great. Be it a charity event, which I truly love, or being a paid appearance to host or MC something that's fun too.
What's your kind of, what do you think your 24-month outlet is? Stay in San Diego, keep doing your thing here? Or?
Yeah, for sure. I love San Diego. My goal, and like I said earlier, I always had my mindset to get back to Boston to do a morning show. And everybody, you'll never do that. And there's only a couple of stations that would ever. Why would you be the guy of everybody that would love to? So I had that personal motivation of doing that. I did it, and when I went back, it was funny. It was fun being back in Boston, but I was also, 10 years removed plus 4 years in college. So my vision of what it was when I was in high school and, having your group of high school friends, everybody's single, having a good time, to going back and people either married, maybe they're divorced, maybe they're going on their second marriage, maybe they got kids, and life was different. So my mom would always say you had to come back to see it's not what you thought it was. And it was kind of true. I loved having my mom there, my brother there, and being there. But I realized, my life is kind of in San Diego. My adult friends are in San Diego, so my 12 to 24 months, keep on growing here as much as I can. And I call San Diego home now. It's like I have two homes. Beforehand, it was like I'm living in San Diego, but my home's in Boston. Now I have two homes, and it's cool. And it's cool to continually grow San Diego as a home and shake more hands and build my brand and get the radio station I'm on now even bigger and just all that. So I'd say 12 to 24 months is to be in San Diego, more successful, continuing to live a dream, I guess, in a cool ass city.
That's right.
It is pretty dope. Where's the best place to find you?
Every morning on Jamn 95.7 or on the iHeart radio app. You can
5
find it there.
right?
5 a.m. I get in there.
Get up.
Until 10. And then
Kenny's been up for an hour by then.
See, I like that. Same schedule. Yeah, so definitely listening. And then social media at Frankie Vizzle is pretty much all my platforms. FRANKIE VIZZLE, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook.
Frankie Vizzle. I like that.
Find me, follow me.
I'm about to follow him and start giving him shit in the morning.
Please do. And I'll message you back. I will right back at you.
That's awesome. Well, cool. Well, thanks for coming on. That was
Thank
fun.
you for having me. It's cool. And
learning
congrats
about
to you guys.
That was awesome.
Thank you.
I'm hearing that you guys are doing a lot of big things, so I like to hear successful people doing successful things. So congrats.
Appreciate it.
Thanks.
We're trying.
Yeah. It's a grind, but it's fun.
It is.
Oh, yeah.
All aspects. Thank you guys.
Okay.